Woolpert as a whole, we offer architecture, engineering, and geospatial. We've sort of branded ourselves as one of the world's first AEG companies like that. But GIS or geospatial exists throughout Woolpert. It's a core competency. We serve a large number of markets in the private and public sector, including energy and utilities, extractive industries, mining, for example, state and municipal government, and national federal agencies of all types, not just here in the US, but internationally throughout the world. We're really committed to being able to survey the Earth, from space all the way to the seafloor. And we use a lot of different modalities to do that. It's a big world, and we want to map it.
Hello and welcome to WGIC, the World Geospatial Industry Council. Our guest today is Seppi, Senior Vice President and Geospatial Sector Leader of Woolpert. Joe, thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. My first question to you, Joe. Woolpert, as many of us understand, that has been a trusted name for over a century, and you have been leading its geospatial sector business, serving the US government and international clients on almost 6 continents, right? Would you like to share the top 3 popular geospatial services from Woolpert?
Well, sure. I would say that Woolpert as a whole, we offer architecture, engineering, and geospatial. We've sort of branded ourselves as one of the world's first AEG companies. And so my part of the business is the geospatial part, and it focuses mainly on large, sometimes pure, geospatial data development or enterprise level GIS implementations and things like that. But GIS or geospatial exists throughout Woolpert. It's a core competency and something that we deliver through engineering, infrastructure, buildings, architecture, and all types of solutions in all 3 of those main areas.
All right. So through the geospatial services, what are some of the industries or sectors Woolpert is serving, and who are some of your clients? Would you want to share about it?
Well, what I can say is that we serve a large number of markets in the private and public sector, including energy and utilities, extractive industries, mining, for example, state and municipal government, and national federal agencies of all types, not just here in the US, but internationally throughout the world.
In terms of the geospatial services that Woolpert provides, would you like to tell us about a recent project that has brought in a state-of-the-art technology from Woolpert?
Sure. We're just wrapping up the lidar collection and processing for the state of Arkansas, which we've been performing this project under the USGS GIPSy contract. We will have delivered this project in record time. We've used AI and ML for our data processing, and that has really helped speed up the delivery time overall, and improving the quality, I think, of the data to some extent. And let's see, we've also employed our state-of-the-art fleet of lidar systems for that project. We're constantly investing in the latest technology, especially in lidar and digital cameras.
All right. I also noticed that Woolpert has very deep expertise in providing marine mapping and hydrography services, right? Would you like to share some details around these services?
Yeah, absolutely. we have in the geospatial business unit here at Woolpert, we have a maritime group, and they focus on hydrographic surveying. They use vessel-based bathymetry mapping with sonar equipment, and then we also have an airborne lidar bathymetry capability. We've been involved in that for many years and pioneered it in some ways. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that later in our conversation here. But we're really committed to being able to survey the Earth, from space all the way to the seafloor. And we use a lot of different modalities to do that of surveying equipment and instruments.
All right. So on that note, do you see a kind of demand expansion in terms of these, especially the hydrography services and marine mapping services in the context of the climate change? And how are the customers using this data?
Well, coastlines, as you know, are ever changing. With climate change, that can be exacerbated. Change happens all at once with hurricanes and these large storm events, flooding, and so on. But there's also human impacts on coastlines, where development takes place. A lot of development still takes place in near coastal areas. And even offshore with offshore wind energy and oil exploration has been going on for many years. There's a lot of things happening under the water and on the seabed that are very important to many of our customers. So characterizing that environment from well offshore all the way to the inland topographic situation is critical in understanding just how those impacts and how they can be mitigated in development.
All right. Data collection is the first step in the geospatial workflow, right? Joe, you also mentioned that Woolpert uses a wide variety of aerial, terrestrial, and hydrographic data acquisition methods as well. And almost, I see that Woolpert collects over 1 million square kilometers annually. So I want to understand, how is Woolpert turning this data into value-added information, derivative products, and insights for customers? Would you want to detail this?
I absolutely want to detail that. But before I do, I realize I forgot to answer the second part of your question about how our customers use that information.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I want to highlight one major project. We're heavily involved in surveying the Florida coastline and the nearshore bathymetry for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, which has a Florida Coastal Mapping Program and Florida Seafloor Mapping Initiative. Florida will use this information to help assess the health of Florida's marine habitats and improve disaster response, coastal resiliency. They'll combine accurate elevation and bathymetric information with other GIS and engineering data and applications. The information gained from that initiative is really going to help the state for decades to come. So just wanted to get that out there. It's one of the largest offshore bathymetric mapping programs ever done. And we're proud to be part of that too.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right. And your next question had to do with data collection and how we use it to extract data, derivative products, and so on. I guess I want to underscore the importance of quality inputs for the production of mapping and geospatial information of all types. Woolpert's very involved in what I would call primary data collection, or just surveying using advanced survey instruments. like lidar. And the quality of that information is everything when it comes to the quality of the downstream derivative products, mapping products, or whatever, and the ease by which those products can be produced. If the data is noisy or inaccurate in any way, then there's a lot of extra work that has to be done to make corrections or even possibly go out and collect supplemental information in order to arrive at the same product results and insights eventually through the whole value chain of geospatial data. So how we do some of this, it starts with the processes in the field and the data collection and survey. It starts with the sensors we use, and then it continues on with robust quality control, ground control, and having the right people who understand geodetic accuracies and things, being able to calibrate the information and validate the information before it goes on to those subsequent steps. And then we're using more and more AI and ML. So we've sort of taken all that knowledge out of the minds of the experts and put them into our AI and ML models and training data sets so that it speeds up the process of finding any type of defect in the data. And once that data is perfected, that raw data is perfected, it just makes automated feature extraction or automated line following or just any kind of downstream mapping effort much easier. And the analytical results that come out of it are, there's a greater degree of confidence in the data that all the way through to the insight and decision-making process.
Thanks for this illumination, Joe. I want to ask you about one thing. In addition to the services that you have enumerated, I see that Woolpert has been developing sensors that aid in this data collection. I'm especially curious about the topographic and bathymetric lidar sensors called Bulldog. Can you tell us more about this sensor and how it is supporting clients' data collection and mapping needs?
Sure. I think to answer that question, I need to go back to around 2009. That was when we first were commissioned to build a advanced airborne lidar system, and that was a topographic system. We put together a team of scientists and engineers to build that system. That project came to an end. It was a successful end. The system that we built was operationalized and is still in use today. The team we had a great team put together for one project, and we needed to find something else for those people to do. So we said, what else can we do to really push the envelope on lidar technology? And with airborne lidar bathymetry, which is still pretty young even today, those sensors have to be flown at a very low altitude, close to the water. And that there's some safety issues with flying so low and so slow and around coastlines. And so we asked the question, how high can we go with airborne lidar bathymetry and get up to a safer altitude? And we set the bar really high. We went from an average of somewhere under 2,000 feet above the water surface all the way to 10,000 feet. Mm-hmm. And over the course of several years, our team developed a system that successfully demonstrated that type of collection. So from 10,000 feet, we're getting similar results to what we would get from a much lower altitude. And it's also much more efficient. So there's an economic benefit. There's also an environmental benefit. It's less carbon emissions, when you have to fly an aircraft less in order to collect that data. Really, really cool things came out of that. That was an R&D project that we did. It was a funded research and development project. So what's the next step after an R&D project? It's to operationalize it. We were in the process of operationalizing it and creating a new sensor that was just smaller, lighter, and had all the lessons learned, hardened, and just reliable for frequent use. And we along the way decided to focus on the topographic part of that first. So for the last couple of years, we've been developing a topographic system, and you'll probably be hearing much more about that in the coming weeks and months. We'll be using it on a major project in the U.S. This coming flying season in the spring, and then once that system is out operational, we'll go back to the airborne lidar bathymetry and complete operationalizing that system.
All right. Thanks for this detail, Joe. I wanted to ask you one thing. Woolpert started as an engineering and surveying firm, and you have enumerated that at the beginning of this conversation, but it also expanded its services and its client base worldwide over the years. In the last few years, Woolpert has expanded its geospatial footprint with several acquisitions, right? Would you like to share the strategy behind the recent acquisitions and how they brought growth to Woolpert?
Absolutely. It's really simple. It's a big world, and we want to map it, and the capabilities that we've demonstrated so well here in the U.S. Are easily transferable to anywhere in the world. They're mapping is a science, and so we looked at Africa. We were brought to Africa first for some project work that we were doing, and then we met up with Southern Mapping Company and built a relationship with them and ended up acquiring them. And so that we found ourselves in Africa, and just so happens, I mean, Africa is one of the least mapped areas in the world, right? And it's a huge place, lots and lots of natural resources and economic growth happening there. So it's prime for mapping and refreshing some very old mapping that exists in many countries there. So that's kind of the premise. We just said they're going to need new mapping here, and we'd like to be here to support it. And then similarly, the opportunity presented itself for us to do work deep into the Asia Pacific region, out in the Pacific Islands. We were doing a lot of airborne lidar bathymetry projects, projecting aircraft and people and sensors very, very far from home to do some of that work. And when AAM became available, I guess, as a company, we got to know them and ended up acquiring them, and they've been a fantastic addition to Woolpert. And I mean, now that these are all geospatial acquisitions, but we're also doing acquisitions in other areas, in engineering and architecture. We've already acquired an architecture company in Australia, so we're not just projecting the geospatial business all over the world and wanting to map things. We're also wanting to support infrastructure development and the built environment everywhere with our full AEG capability. And we've done this in Europe, of course, with the acquisition of Murphy Geospatial and SNHA. So yeah, we're just growing and trying to replicate the old U.S.-based Woolpert all over the place. But in the process, it's changing us for the better, and we're becoming a an international company. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic name, I should say. So my last question to you, Joe. AAM, now part of Woolpert, has been a member of WGIC from its inception. And now since Woolpert owns AAM, this has been the tradition and the association has been going stronger and more firmer moving forward, right? So how has been your journey with WGIC so far, and how do you see the WGIC's role evolving over the next few years?
Well, honestly, yeah, a lot of credit to Brian Nichols and yeah, for joining WGIC back when they were still AAM and introducing us to the organization. I think there's a lot of benefits from the organization. I chair a subcommittee on data right now, and that's when it really hit home for me that there's some real benefit to being a member, and as a member, I think you get out of it what you put into it, like most organizations. And with the data committee, we're tackling some interesting problems, and I know all of the other subcommittees kind of operate the same way. So I think that's to me is the biggest value of the WGIC, is like rolling up your sleeves and being a part of some of these subcommittees. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's ultimately we are together co-creating the industry, right?
Definitely, and on an international basis, it's a unique organization in that sense. I'm meeting lots of new people from a lot of different places, and that's just opening the door for partnering opportunities and learning from each other. So it's been a good experience so far.
Great. Thank you so much for this conversation, Joe. It's an absolute pleasure speaking with you this morning.